Evan Valenti, Chris Grenham from Forbes, here on Celtics Beat, 389. And one of the reasons why I got Chris on the show is because people seem to like us last show. The other reason why I got Chris on this show is, Chris, I think people that owe you an apology over the Payton Pritchard thing, because I'll be honest, you were on it right away. You had some great stuff pre-draft about Payton. I think you reposted after the Celtics drafted Payton Pritchard. He's been unbelievable. And I mean, he's been way better than I think anybody expected defensively. I thought the past two games against Detroit especially, his energy on that side of the floor is unbelievable. And the Detroit broadcast crew was like, man, this guy Payton Pritchard's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
He's all over the place. But the offense, the steadiness, how calm he is, for how many games into his NBA career he is, I'm floored really by the production we're seeing out of Payton Pritchard. And my question is, at what point does he take Teague's minutes? Because he just looks like a better player right now.
Well, it might be right now because Teague sprained his ankle today. So we might see some games where he's going to have even more of an uptick. I mean, it's rare you see Brad Stevens throw a rookie in with these significant minutes this early. Pritchard is a little bit different. He's a 4-year guy. It's not like he's an 18-year-old kid, right off of his freshman year. So that does change things, but you're 100% right. I mean, Pritchard was a major concern for Pritchard was the defensive side of the ball, because he's not the biggest guard. He's not the strongest guard. He's not the most athletic guard, but he's more athletic than people give him credit for. I mean, that showed in his senior year at Oregon. It showed in his various USA camps throughout his high school career. I mean, he's a pesky defender, and he's pretty strong, and he moves well laterally. And that's shown, like you said, like on, I don't even know when the first Pistons game, I'm not even going to try to put a date on it. He tortured Killian Hayes. Like, and it's not that he's making crazy intelligent reads or anything. He's just making the smart read. He moves well laterally, and he's just in their face, and he's just an annoying backcourt defender. And that's enough, frankly, that's enough. And it goes a really long way. And he brings the energy whenever he's on the floor against a ball handler. He's right in their face, and he stayed really well, stayed in front of Killian Hayes, DeLon Wright, various guys for Detroit. So yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to see him doing well, because it was disappointing to see a lot of people upset about the Pritchard pick when they made it, but it just made a lot of sense because he, more so than other guards, could come right in and contribute right off the bat, because he's just a smart player and he's a gamer. And that gamer side of him shows, like crazy on the defensive side of the ball. So, I mean, I think Brad's been very happy, and I think there's a good chance that he's going to see some pretty significant minutes here without Teague. It'll be interesting to see. I mentioned the double big lineup earlier. Say they go away from that down the road. Teague is an option. Pritchard is an option if they wanted to go smaller. It really depends on matchup wise, but I think he would be an interesting option, especially if Teague is dealing with this left ankle sprain right now. So if they wanted to go smaller in the next week or so, you could see Pritchard potentially get some added minutes there.
Yeah, and I'll welcome every single minute that he plays. I love watching him play. It's a shame that Tommy's not around to watch, because
he'd love him. He would love him.
This would be his favorite guy. I mean, there's no question. He just brings the defensive tenacity, and that's the thing with Brad. And I've explained this in a million other podcasts, right? But I'll relate it to the current roster, right? So Pritchard sees you follow the Marcus Smart example. Marcus Smart saw so much of the floor his rookie year, partly because they weren't really that good. That roster was weak back then. Right. But Marcus also could defend his ass off, right? He could not lock down, but he would play hard defensively, stay in front of guys, make it difficult for everyone from day one. And other guys in the past, like James Young, he couldn't get on the floor because he couldn't defend well. And unless you're a lights out shooter, which James Young was not at the time, you're not going to see the floor. Pritchard, and he has a foil right next to him. Pritchard is an unbelievably willing defender, and obviously in a spot where, they're a little light right now, especially with the Teague news, right? They don't have Kemba Walker, so they need somebody to play backup point guard for them. And so he has that opportunity, but he gets more opportunity because he defends his ass off and he makes a lot of smart plays on the offense side of the ball. Then you have Nesmith, right? Nesmith can't see the floor because Nesmith doesn't defend at the NBA level yet, right? Yeah. It's not about athletic gifts, because I think he's long enough. Right. It's about knowing how the defense works as a unit. And I don't think So far, Neesmith has quite got there yet. And if you're gonna get any playing time and you're gonna be a zero on the defensive end, or you're gonna be a negative on the defensive end, you better shoot the lights out. And Neesmith hasn't found that rhythm yet because he hasn't been on the floor long enough yet. So it's sort of one of those things. But with Pritchard, the more minutes he's going to get, it's going to be the better for him, because he's going to be a guy they're going to have to rely on later on. And it reminds you about these draft picks that Boston's accumulated. They haven't been able to hit any one of these. They finally got a good rotation player. They finally got someone that can really stick and gives them valuable minutes. So now they don't have to worry about that anymore, and they can worry about focusing on other things. I'm stunned it took this short of time for everyone to fall in love with him, but I'm not shocked people fell in love with him. He just does a lot of the dirty work that it seems, Boston fans are in love with from anybody. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, he just plays hard. And a lot of it's really instinctual. He's got good awareness, and he knows how to be a good team defender and kind of
when you did your research, when you're going back and watching all your, because I watched, highlight tapes, and it's like way different, right? What was your favorite thing about him?
I mean, my favorite thing about him was how hard he played. And he was confident, and he can kind of control. He could run the floor, and he was a great floor general. And I mean, a guy watching his progress, he always played hard. Like, he was a little raw in his freshman year, but he got good minutes on a really good Oregon team, and he played hard. So that was always very evident. But I mean, the most appealing thing for me was his progress. Like, he played hard, but he improved, in some various areas throughout his career. And by the end of his fourth year at Oregon, I mean, he was controlling the floor with tons of confidence. He was shooting the lights out. And you saw that in the second Pistons game today. Like, he was taking some pretty gutsy shots and knocking them down late in the game. And he was on the floor on that last possession as well, because clearly, you have an extra shooter. You throw him in there as a backup plan in the corner a little bit. And that means something, that he's out there for that last possession. So that goes a long way. But yeah, I mean, the progress he's made, I think, at Oregon is something to kind of note, because look at his minutes in the opener against Milwaukee. He was lost defensively, like head spinning, classic rookie. You're looking at him, you're like, all right, this isn't really going to go well, right?
Yeah,
and the image that comes to mind is him trying to play some transition defense. He gets caught in the middle, and Giannis is running like a freight train down the middle and basically running him over, and he gets called for a foul, right? But fast forward just a couple weeks, and he's already making some really, really major improvements as a team defender. He knows where he's supposed to be, and you compare it to a guy like Neesmith, who still has a long way to go, but it's different. I mean, he was a 2-year college player, so he hasn't had as much experience, and I just think a lot of his defensive skills in the past have relied on his size, have relied on his athleticism. And for Pritchard, he kind of had to grind and be smart about his defensive game. That wasn't really the case with Neesmith, and you can't really get by with that at the NBA level. So again, that's not a concern. You're 7 games into his rookie season. That's not a concern at all. But I think Pritchard is a really smart player, and he's got really good instincts on the defensive side of the ball. And all of that compiled next to his work ethic is just, it's a perfect combination. So I'm surprised at the defense. Honestly, I have to admit, I knew he'd be good on the defensive end. I didn't think he'd be this effective and this pesky. So yeah, it's solid. It's major for the Celtics. It's great.